Mom's Pearls. Mom's Pearls. Mom's Pearls.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mom's Pearls, the show where we discuss life's questions from a biblical perspective. My name is Leah, and I am so excited to be here today with my co-host, Sister Brenda.
Hi.
We are both moms, and we are sisters in Christ family.
Yes.
We have something special for you guys today. In light of everything that's been going on, we're digging into a new topic. We are talking about video games. Everybody loves them. I think like 95% of us can raise our hand and say we've had a part to play in them. We've personally experienced and felt the impact on our lives. So we are so excited to be discussing this with you today. We also have a super special guest who's going to give us a dual-sided perspective into this, and we're really going to unwrap what video games is all about and what impact it can really have on our lives and the lives of our children. So stay tuned, enjoy this clip. We'll be right back.
It's happening in virtually every developed country in the world. Young people, usually boys, unable to walk away from online video games. It could be Fortnite, Counter-Strike, Minecraft, the list is long, as kids sacrifice family, friends, school, even sleep. For years, China has sent teens to addiction recovery centers. Now it's setting tough new rules for minors 17 and younger, banning online video games on school days, Monday through Thursday. Only 1 hour a day on Fridays, weekends, and holidays. And every gamer must register with an anti-addiction center.
That kind of mandate would not work here in the United States, period, full stop.
But, says Jim Steyer, it's a sign of how serious the problem has become.
That was a beautiful shot.
With few friends around during COVID, 15-year-old James Reichert in Colorado turned to his Xbox for online gaming.
But I got a weekly report, and it said he'd been on for like 40 hours.
Now his parents have had to set limits.
He has to have his homework done and his chores, as well as maintain a 3.0 or higher grade point average. Then we will basically unlock the Xbox so he can play because we're able to pause the Wi-Fi to it.
They make us feel really engaged.
Even a Harvard psychiatrist says he too was a gaming addict once.
I grew up playing video games, played a lot of video games when I was in middle school and high school, and almost failed out of college for playing too many video games.
Now, Dr. Alok Kanoja runs the Healthy Gamer Mental Health Platform. He estimates 10% of teenage gamers are addicted. Often, the addiction hides low self-esteem issues.
They have difficulty with social interactions, which then just gets worse the more that they play games. That a lot of times video games serve as an escape to something else.
The gaming industry tells NBC News it supports digital wellness, adding nearly all video game devices offer parental controls, which allow them to set time limits. Common Sense Media says it's time for a national PSA push, teaching teens and parents of the dangers of too much online gaming.
At Common Sense, we strongly recommend a public awareness campaign around video game usage that's similar to what we did with kids and tobacco and smoking.
A campaign to wean kids off of their online addiction. News, Tom Costello.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
Wow. Hello, everybody. Hi, Leah. We have a special guest with us today. Fam, our viewing family is so excited to introduce to you our brother in Christ, Brother Anthony Ward. He is not only our brother in Christ, he is also a police officer in the community, and he is a fellow gamer. He's here with us today to give his perspective on this gaming world. Welcome, Brother Anthony. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you for coming because you can give a good perspective being a gamer, you said most of your life, on this whole gaming issue. It's a big thing now, especially with our young children. So we appreciate your perspective and outlook and any advice you can give us on this. Brother Anthony, do you think gaming is addictive?
Most definitely. It is most definitely addictive, Anytime, you have something that takes hours out of your day, you're losing sleep, you're not eating, that's an addiction.
How easy is it to get caught up in this?
It's very easy because, the games are designed actually to capture your attention. And I really think it's meant to compete with reality, you know. Game designers, they have to have some type of pitch or, to get people to not pick up the game just one time, but they want you to pick it up constantly. So they constantly have thought of ways and thought of strategies on how to compete for your time. So.
And it's interactive, like you can control it. You can do so many things when it comes to video games. I love that. So do you think it has any relationship? I know with your unique perspective as an officer and a gamer. So do you think they have any correlation like with our children? Like they were saying, this guy was doing 40 hours a week. That's a full-time job. Like we tell our kids, like they're not even old enough to work. And you 10 years old and you putting in 40 hours a week, but you're not doing anything else. So there are some real dangers when it comes to video gaming. So like, do we think, because he even mentioned in there, like sometimes it can be an escape. Sometimes it has to do with low self-esteem when it comes to our children. So what are some of those dangers and impacts? Do you think there could be a possible increase in violence, even when it comes to like Fortnite and things like that? Like, what do you think about that?
Well, first, I want to say the self-esteem, in my opinion, it hits it right on the head. If you kind of look at, because there's also a professional scene for gaming. There are people who their job is playing games, and that's what they do. So if, in particular, if you look at these type of guys, they would kind of be put into what some people would say the socially awkward group, right? Like these are not going to be, the guys who are the best at these games are not going to be the type of person you see, with a bunch of friends, hanging out, be honest, are lucky with women and dating or approaching and anything like that. They just have, they don't have the social skills to where when there's face-to-face contact, they're able to speak. And also as an officer, I see this all the time. And there's officers who have that same social awkwardness as well. And it's not just gaming with the social awkward. I think social media also plays a part in that. And I think it has to do with that kind of that control factor, of being able to turn on and off conversations when you feel like it, you may not, or even an accountability factor as well. Like, for instance, you have back in the day, certain males wouldn't talk to certain other males face to face, and particularly like they could on online gaming.
That's right.
Get away with a lot because you at your parents' house, they can't see your face. You real, so you can say something antagonizing towards another male and get away with it. It can be funny or fun, whatever the case may be. But back in the day, when there's face value, you wouldn't necessarily get away with that without consequences, right? So,
True.
Video games kind of also take away that consequence factor. As far as how it affects our children, it's tough because, today's era of technology is so big right now. And, there's so many different avenues with YouTube. One of the gaming streaming sites called Twitch that there's kids who are more up on technology than their parents. So a lot of these parents don't even know what their kids are doing. I as an officer, I have access to the community. I go into people's homes and speak with them, speak with their kids, speak with their parents, and most of the time, I'm not going to say most of the time, but a high percentage of the time, a lot of parents have no idea what their kids are doing on their phones or in their rooms. They just let them go in there and close the door. And you don't know who they could be talking to. You know, online gaming give you access to talk to people. So I've seen a lot of young girls having contact with grown men through video games. I've seen that. That's an issue. You know, it's a huge issue, and I definitely think parents should definitely educate themselves on knowing exactly what their kids are doing, knowing exactly how much time they're spending on the game, and don't just give kids free access to do whatever they want online, because, you know, they're kids, you know, they can be easily manipulated, you know, and I've seen it happen. And it's really a big education gap. There's definitely a danger as well. I want to touch on the dangers of video games, if you don't mind me keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, by all means, please.
Okay, so the dangers of video games, I will say, there's an exception, you know. I would say that's on a high, low percentage end where video games will actually become dangerous, right? For the most part, I feel like the healthy mind would know that I'm doing this for fun, I'm doing this for entertainment, and this isn't, you know, actually reality. But there are a few minds out there that's not as strong-willed, and there's a lot of kids who are lonely. They don't have people to talk to, and these video games become their life, their whole world. And once they get caught up in that and start enjoying the virtual or fantasy world more than the reality world, that's a danger. You know, I think that if you get to that point as a child, there's grown men and women as well who much rather, you know, stay in their room, play on the game in their virtual world, create their avatar, be who they be, do what they want to do, and it's just better. You know, it's less work, it's a less accountability, and it's more control, it's more pleasurable. And, you know, the social awkwardness there I think that's the next pandemic right now, is social awkwardness. You know, we had COVID and a lot of people stayed at home. A lot of people started getting in video games during that COVID time. Everybody was home. And now people are getting out, and I'm starting to notice as an officer just that people, I feel like, are scared to even interact and talk to each other. They don't know how to talk to each other no more. You know, if it's not on a microphone, on behind the screen, if it's not a text message, they don't know how to talk face to face without it becoming somebody getting easily offended, someone getting angry, you know, trying to fight, do all these crazy things that you probably wouldn't normally do if you were used to communicating with people and knowing how to read body language and just respecting each other. It's simple things like that.
That is such a good point. I love that you brought that out, because it's like the video games kind of take away from, like you said, that need to really be present in the moment. And like to be, like you said, to be able to read like the body language and the signs and all that stuff. Like you don't have to do that on a video game. Like you say, you can talk to people any kind of way that you want. You can do all these things in that whole world that you've created for yourself. And the thing about it is, if you don't like it, you can leave that and you can make something else. You can destroy it, and you can. And I think when it comes to, like you said, the mindset in our children, like they can't process all of that. So we can totally process that killing somebody in real life, there are repercussions for that. Like there's a whole family that was affected. There are friends, that was that person's life. But our kids, like when they're doing these certain video games and stuff, I don't think they're fully processing, like that's not the full story. Like just because you came back tomorrow and you got to do it again, like it's not you're not accountable for your actions, like what really took place. And when you're doing 40 hours of that or more a week, like you really think you can go out there in the real world and behave that way and there's no consequences? It doesn't work like that.
It's hard, you know, like you were saying, Brother Anthony, the awkwardness, and you know, you're in your own little bubble, and it gives you a chance to make that alter ego, you know, because I'm like this and I'm all shy and timid, but there's another part of you who is, yes, I'm that person. Yay. When you walk in the room, you get it on and pop, and everybody loves you. And then you get to create that. But then when you step out of the four walls, you don't know what to do because you don't have the alter ego. That's where gaming, it's good. And it's good in a sense when, an extra activity, but then it's very damaging when you have all those other issues and you go outside, because when you do too much online gaming and all this online media stuff, it takes away from you learning to socialize and how to socialize and how to come out of that shell. You don't get to do that. And it's very, very important as humans that we need socialization. Our children need it because they got to get it young. So as they grow up into adulthood, they know how to conduct themselves when they get out there in the world.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Both of y'all got exact good points. I don't necessarily think that most kids believe that they can go out here and do those things. Because as a gamer myself, I think there is a reality that kids kind of understand, like, this isn't real. But I think the way it affects them, I see in a different way in the streets, right? What I see is it's kind of like a child who doesn't get their way, right? When you play your game, you can get your way all the time. You create it. You create your world. You get your way all the time. But now in reality, you're not going to get your way all the time. So now the question becomes, how do you handle it, right? So I don't think kids necessarily goes and say, oh, well, I'm going to do like my video game. When I lose, I'll just try again by, recreating his life. Because you can't just recreate your real self, So what happens is we get more of an emotional reaction because they don't have control of the situation. They don't know how to handle themselves when they don't have control. So we have a lot of young, self-centered children walking around here thinking the world revolves around them. Mm-hmm. Life is all about them. And I do kind of give a credit to video games in that kind of sense. I don't think they will necessarily emotionally react and getting a gun and doing something crazy. Not saying that it ain't possible because we've seen it happen. But for the majority part, I don't see most people, attributing video games to that type of reaction. I think what it's doing is, like I said, with that social part, they don't know how to express themselves. They don't know how to, when they're angry, explain what makes them angry. But instead, they want to take action, wherever that looks like. That can look like a kid running away. That could be some type of, but you got to kind of pay attention to the signs because they always give some type of sign, a cry out for help, a cry out for whatever it looks like. It could be grades falling in school, getting in trouble in school. Even just when you're talking to your own kids, you can kind of feel something different about it, a little distant. They're not responding like they used to. They don't seem as happy. They're not smiling. They're kind of isolating themselves. I think parents got to kind of really, really pay attention to your kids and pay attention to personalities that's changing. If they're, that's not that ain't my baby right there. I don't know who that is. I hear that a lot.
That's where the parent intervention comes into play.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this. Do you think, like, with the 10 people that were just recently killed, do you think the guy was kind of like out of touch with reality? Do you think video games had anything to do with, like, maybe his state of mind and his perception? Because he was really young too.
Right. Like I said, a lot of, so let's just use that guy for example, right? If we look at him, right? I, as a man, I'm telling you, And when I look at him, I see a person who is socially awkward. As a man, I see a young male who looks like he doesn't get out much. He looks like if someone was to approach him and speak, that conversation would be very awkward. He wouldn't know how to respond. He seems very closed off. So those are other signs that, yes, video games may have a attribute to that. But like I mentioned earlier, you look at some of the best gamers that's in the world, you know, these guys who are competing at the top level. If you see them outside of video games, right? I don't want to use the word, but I'm going to say it. They're kind of like some nerds. You know, they're kind of geeky looking. And you know for a fact that, you know, outside of that video game world, they may not be happy with the results they're receiving in life. You know, whether if that's unlucky with females or males, unlucky with, you know, friendships, unlucky with, you know, usually it has to do with something sociable that they're not good at. Because they're probably good in school, you know. They probably getting all A's, you know, they probably doing all that because they got so much time on their hands. So I look at that guy and I kind of see like that same type of male in him, right? And my thought process also is that, you know, he did research before then. You know, before then he targeted a specific place. His research, I feel like, was he wanted to go somewhere and target people who he knew would not necessarily fight him back or would be in a vulnerable position. You know, that's kind of that same mindset I said about the accountability factor and the difference in back in the old days and today's time. You know, I see a kid who probably really wasn't in touch with reality, but he also had a lot of hate in him as well. And he also had a message that he was trying to send to people. Now, I don't know how much video game played a part in that, but he did stream it live on a video game platform.
Yes, so he definitely was. It seems to be that he was a gamer if he was on a platform like that.
For sure.
For sure. So in a very, very unfortunate situation. So sad. Now, Brother Anthony, do your children play video games and do y'all play as a family games together?
That's a good
Just
question.
You're a lone gamer?
I play. I prefer to play my games by myself. That's just who I am. I like playing by myself because, like I said, I can control if I win or lost.
Do you find it difficult to pull away at times? Like, are you like, I'm good, I know my limits?
Well, as I'm getting older, I'm starting to develop my own limits because I'm starting to understand how the value of time is. And I really can't go hours on a day playing video games, you know, sitting down playing video games. I can't do it. I will not feel accomplished for that day if I, you know, spent that whole day sitting in one spot staring at a screen. I can't do that. But when I was younger, that was easy, you know. That was easy.
You didn't have anything to do.
Right, exactly. No real responsibilities. Now we have a whole list full. And if you spend all day doing it, you're missing a lot of stuff. And you're accountable to a lot of people, which I think is the difference between us and children now as well, right? It's just we have so many other things that we have to get done. It's like I really can't afford to take that time away. But we know a lot of adults still do it. I had a coworker, she would take one weekend off every year. She would take one weekend off and she would get with her gaming friends and they would play through this whole like portion of the game. It was like a major big deal thing, but she was like committed. This is what I have to do every year. I have to get with these guys. So I know it can be challenging to do
like
that.
I said, that goes back to the social life, you know. If you have a more social life, it's much easier to get away from the game. You know, you got family, you have friends, you got jobs, you know, you got work, you got all these, events you want to make, attend to, certain things. A sociable life is healthy because it gives you a more constructive way with your time. Like I said, with these other kids who you see here, they don't have anything else to do. They're not in sports. All they're doing is school and coming home. That's their day. Their parents aren't spending time with them.
Yes, that's the major thing.
That's the major thing. As an officer, I talk to kids, who are going through some domestic related issues at home. And when I talk to them, I kind of get the sense that, they don't get talked to often, not even in their own home, like they're just kind of just there at the house and their parents off doing their thing and they're doing their thing. So when problems come wrong and then the parents want to, kind of discipline their children, the children kind of looking at you like, I don't have no respect for you at all because I feel like you don't care about me. You don't spend time with me. You don't talk to me. You don't try to see how I feel. You don't try to hang out with me. You don't do anything but you go work and you come home and you just let me do whatever, So I think a social life is extremely healthy and, to get away from just being bored, I think, like with my kids, I'm not gonna lie, when, they start getting on my nerves, I'm like, hey, give them a tablet or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Going over there so I can sit here, relax. You know what I'm saying? I do that. I admit to that. But I don't want to, just make them feel like, I'm pushing them to the side, And also I want to kind of monitor whatever there is that they're doing on that tablet as well.
Absolutely. Well, look, we have enjoyed having you.
Yes.
We thank you so much for all of your insight. And we are so out of time. We have to go, but everybody's going to get mad at me. But I have to ask you this one question. Maybe you can answer really, really quick. Why do you think there's a difference between like boys and girls? Like the guy was saying in the clip, it's more heavy for guys to do that. Why do you think video gaming is such a heavy thing for guys? Just really, really quick.
Well, I kind of think it's because with God, how God created men. Kind of created men to kind of go on these like conquests and kind of conquer and dominate the world around them. And video games play more into male perspective. There's not a lot of video games for females that's talking about, their social life and things like that. It's more catered to adventure, shooting, fighting, which men like to do more than women. Women kind of are the more social creatures. So women more prefer to be around and talk to people and not be, in the four walls, isolated, So
right.
I
we
think
got to be touchy-feely. We got to be touchy-feely and interactive.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, I have truly enjoyed this. Sister Brenda, how about you? Right? It's been awesome. Thank you so much, Brother Anthony, for being here with us. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, and we want you to continue to be safe. Okay. Bye.
Do come back again.
Yeah.
Right.
That was so great. That was so informative. It was good to see that aspect, being a male and being out in the community on a daily basis. And he does have a lot of interaction with young children, teens, and he gets to see firsthand what is going on and how it correlates with the gaming world for these kids. And it is unfortunate. And us as parents, we have to get more involved. And that's one of the things that we can do to have a healthier way to get our kids to be able to have video games, play games, and be socially active in person. My grandchildren, I have a grandson who I want to be a gamer, grandma, when I grow up. Like, yeah, okay, but we're going to work on other things too. But their mom, I really give it to my daughter-in-law. She makes sure that that's not all they do. They have martial arts. They are into basketball heavy. They're in these leagues. I mean, like real leagues that go places. They get championships and all of that. So they don't just sit in that room. And when they are on the devices, she monitors it. how long they're okay, time to get off, do this, do that. You're not just gonna do this. We're gonna read books. She makes sure they have books that they read. So it's a balance, and you have to have that balance. And we have to be involved with our kids.
I love that. And I think it's just like he said, I think it's that parental awareness. So I think for parents, it's just like, oh, it's just something fun. My child likes it. They're having fun. So I just let them do it. But it's really like he was even saying about the girls, which I didn't know about, the girls hooking up with these older guys. Like it opens up to a whole world that you might not know of. So it's really important, like you mentioned, for us as parents to really get involved and say, okay, well, what exactly are you doing? What exactly are you participating in? Even like Philippians 4:5, when the Bible talks about all things in moderation. I think that's exactly what you said your daughter was doing, which is such a great thing. Like you can have a little bit of this, but we're also going to have a little bit of basketball. We're going to have a little bit of martial arts. There's some family time. You're going to go to school so that you're balanced. And I think that's what our parents, you guys parents back in the day, especially, that's what they were bringing you guys. You're outside, you're getting that balance. You're inside doing your schoolwork. Like it's so important. That's why the Bible put it in there. It's rock solid. All things in moderation.
Yes. Hebrews also says not neglecting meeting together with each other. We have to be together, make it a habit to come together. It says, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see day drawing near, to come together. Let's fellowship together. Let's spend time together. Listen, family out there, our viewing fam, it's very important. It's crucial. We are bringing up another generation, and you don't have to be the parent. You can be the auntie. You can be the neighbor. You can be good friends to the family. You are a person who are around these children all the time, and it takes a village to raise these kids. So we all have an input on how they grow up to be well-rounded, godly young adults. And that's what we're aiming for at this point. So we have to put that in there. We have to be mindful of what we're doing with these kids. We really, really do. We can't just make that a babysitter.
Absolutely. And just like we said, it's the whole thing, setting those limits, screen time. It's the same with our games, game time, screen time, set those limits, the phone included. Okay. We're coming after your phones, baby. Sorry. We got to have those and set some
and that
limits
goes for us adults also. We have to monitor our time also on these games.
We have to be the example. We have to be the example that we want to see. So children, we're not just coming for you. We're coming for ourselves too. But family, we are so out of time. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Remember, we're Mom's Pearls, and we discuss life's questions from a biblical perspective. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Mom's